What's up, everybody? Joe here. I know you guys are all waiting for the show to get started live, and we're going to be there in just a few seconds, I promise. Couple of things. One, if you're watching this show recorded, thank you very much for being here. It's awesome. Come check it out live. Sunday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. It's a lot of fun. Kiss Army members from all over the world are there, and they're having a blast and being part of the show, and you should too. It's awesome. 2, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/Podcast Rock City. There's a ton of stuff on there. We do extra shows and everything like that, and you can check it out on our Patreon, patreon.com/Podcast Rock City. Join it free for 1 week just to check it out. That's pretty much it. I'm out of here. 3, 2, 1. Peace. Dynasty, Unmasked, Elder, Creatures of the Night. We're going to talk about those 4 records as well as everything that was going on around the band today on Podcast Rock City Live. What's up, everybody? Joe here from Podcast Rock City, and with me this week, Sonny Hollywood Pooney.
That look. What's up, people? How's it going?
And right down there is the man, the myth, the legend, host of Top 5 with Joey Casada. Joey Casada.
Woo! What's up, Joe? How are you? How are you,
I'm
Lee?
okay.
Piece of garbage. How are you?
And right down there is the lovely and talented goddess of thunder herself, Lee. Hi, Lee.
Hi, everybody.
Lee went and saw Sammy Hagar, and so everybody that's in that band, Sammy Hagar, the drummer from Chad from the Chili Peppers.
No, Bonham.
Well, was he in Chickenfoot? He was in Chickenfoot.
Right. This is not Chickenfoot.
Okay, I apologize.
Right.
So you got Jason Bonham. Whoa,
Yes.
whoa! Hey, what's up with the hostility, Lee? I'm just kidding. Joe Satriani. All right.
Yep.
So the question that is on everybody's mind: can Joe Satriani play Van Halen stuff?
I thought so. He did great. I mean, it's not. It sounds different a little, but I mean, obviously, but he did great.
I know that there was a little drama, wasn't there,
There's
Sonny,
always
or
drama.
where he went to tap some part on like a Stern. And apparently it fell apart on him, and people were like, "Uh-oh."
They weren't completely rehearsed. He said himself, he goes, "I'm still practicing this shit. This shit ain't easy."
Right.
No, I'm sure. Yeah. Hey. Anyway, it's really great to see you guys today. We're going to have a lot of fun. There's a lot to talk about. The news-wise, actually, there's not a lot of Kiss news, but but Joey and I have something to talk about, so let's go ahead and get to the news.
Podcast Rock City News.
This week, if you guys haven't seen it yet, Joey and I had the opportunity to interview Anton Fig, and we had a blast. It was a lot of fun. He seems very humble and very shy. Is that what you got, Joey?
Yeah, he was just super down to earth, definitely shy, definitely humble. Just a great interview. You know, we were saying that you really don't see a lot of interviews with Anton. And Anton and I were in touch, you know, right before the Ace record came out, talking about tracks and stuff. And I had asked them, hey, dude, I'd love to do an interview with you to talk about the tracks and talk about your playing on it, my playing on it, and so forth. And he's just so busy, we couldn't get him scheduled. And he finally got back to me last week. He's like, oh, he had some free time in the afternoon, and his one request was no Sonny Pooney. And I said, deal.
Because we met once. I'll just leave it at that.
He remembers.
Yeah.
You guys are brutal. If you guys haven't seen that interview yet, it is on YouTube. If you're on our Facebook. So here's the thing. I want you guys that are watching right now to, first of all, if you haven't subscribed on YouTube, go and do that, because Facebook has made it harder for people to live stream through pretty much anywhere other than Facebook. So we live stream through StreamYard, and it goes out to a whole bunch of different places, and Facebook's just made it harder for us to get on there. So if you want to be able to comment and us to see it while the show is going on, hustle over to YouTube and subscribe and jump on and just get into the show. We'll wait. Hold on. I'm kidding. Anyway, so that's where the show is. I have to say, Joey and I, when we got done with the interview, there were a couple of things that I didn't get a chance to mention to Joey, and I want to do that now. Okay, so let's talk about. That is Sonny Pooney right there. That's Sonny Pooney right there. That's Pooney. Anyway, all right. So first of all, evening, David. How you doing? How's everybody doing? Good to see you. First of all, the first thing that I want to mention was he played a couple of riffs for us on his table with his feet. And okay, I'm chalking that up to being exactly the same as Anthony Daniels, C-3PO, like saying lines to me and my son as C-3PO. I mean, he was talking about how he came up with it, and he couldn't remember how exactly he played it with double kick pedal, but it was awesome. When he did that, I was like, man, he's playing for us. It's not on a drum kit, but it sounded awesome. Did you think the same way I did when he did that?
Absolutely. I loved, just getting to really talk about his drum parts in some of those songs. The two big takeaways that I got, obviously besides him joining Kiss thing, which we'll get into in a few minutes, but the drum stuff when he was explaining how he did that Hard Times pattern for years, myself, and I think every other drummer that I've ever either seen try to play it or try to learn it. You're talking 79. There wasn't a lot of obviously double kick pedals, never mind double kick drummers out there. So, and I don't remember Anton really ever doing double kick either, but he was saying during those Hard Times patterns is like these quadruplets or quintuplets, depending on how many notes you count. He does it with a double pedal, and I had never heard it like that. I had always heard it with, 3 beats on my hands and 2 beats on my feet, where he was doing the opposite. And it was just super cool to hear that. No, he thought he did it with a double pedal. So that was cool. And then he mentioned the Rip It Out solo, the drum solo in the middle, that little breakdown, that Eddie Kramer not only asked him to double track it, which just means you're tracking it twice. And anytime you track something twice, especially with drums, and there's no click track, you're going to get flams. And flams just mean, slight variations of notes, right? Hitting like at this. The same time. So you hear like a tiny little bit of a double.
Yeah.
And he's saying that's why that sounds so big, that part, because there are these slight variations. And then the last fill, and I went and listened to it right after the interview, Joe, the very last fill on the Rip It Out solo, he does a fill descending, which means like down the drums.
Mm-hmm.
When he did it the second time to double it, he went ascending. So it sounds conflicting, but it sounds so cool. Now that you listen to it, you can hear it.
Man, that's awesome. It was really cool. And he did tell us a couple other things that we will mention when we're talking about these 4 records that we're going to talk about today. But the other thing that I found that was really interesting was the fact that we were the ones that broke to him that he's in the Scooby-Doo meets Kiss. We lost. Oh, Joey's hitting back.
No, I'm not. I'm typing. I'm just typing to my friend.
Anyway, So when we showed him the picture of the fact that there was a fig in the book of the elder or whatever they called it, he brutal. He had no idea that he was in that, you know. And when we told him, he actually thought it was cool. Obviously he was very humble. You know, it was very interesting with, you know, Joey obviously being a drummer, when he told him, you know, I think you're awesome, you're a hero, blah, blah, blah. You could see it in his face that he's not comfortable with that. But he did say thank you, and that was pretty awesome. Okay.
Obviously, stuff we talked about. Joe asked a great question. You know, there's that story about him joining KISS for 24 hours, and this is mostly for people who didn't see the interview yet. Go back and watch it. And Joe asks him, you know, is it true that you technically were in KISS and then, you know, they decided against it because you were already in another band and so on and so forth. He remembered the story a little different. And in his recollection, he was asked by Ace, and he didn't know if he wanted to do it or not because his own band was up and coming. They had a top 40 hit at the time. And the biggest thing he remembered was Gene and Paul possibly not wanting it because it would create another Ace Peter type situation with Anton and Ace. And now, if you guys ever read Ace's book, Anton and Ace were party friends, we'll call them, back in those days. And they had a lot of fun together, whether it was, you know, racing cars together and drunk driving, whatever it was, they were getting into some shenanigans. So I have a feeling Gene and Paul were a little weary of that, knowing that Ace would have another buddy in the band. So that might have been a big reason as well. And it's funny, Joe, I was messaging, I'm in the quarantine group chat, and I was telling the guys about that story, and Jericho brought up a great point, which I had never thought of. And I know it sounds stupid now, but looking back, I bet you this was a factor too. Anton has a heavy accent. And I wonder if that had a big part to play, that they didn't want that. You know, that's why they wanted their names changed and Eric Carr's name changed. They didn't want any like ethnicity in the band. They wanted everyone to be generic, like just not knowing what ethnicity it was. And I bet you Anton's accent had a part to play as well.
Interesting. I don't know, because didn't earlier than that, didn't he get called out for being a nice Jewish boy? Gene did on Mike Douglas show, but he never
right. But
that's a good point.
More so about, you know, accents and last names like Caravello, who was obviously
Witz.
Chris Quola. Yep. So right, Chaim Witz. So
Gene never copped to that comment anyway.
Good point.
Because she said, I can tell by the hook, and he just smiled and stuck his tongue out.
And he said, you should only know.
Yeah.
And the guys, you got to remember, even during the Revenge era, if you remember, there was interviews because Singer had blonde hair. They were going to make him dye his hair black. Because could Kiss have a blonde drummer in the band? I mean, I don't even know what the hell that means, but they were actually contemplating making him dye his hair because they couldn't have a blonde drummer in the band. And they wind up doing it when he put the Peter makeup on, right?
Right.
Yeah. All right. So if you guys want to check that out, it's on our YouTube page. Go watch it, like it. If you're watching the show right now, give us a thumbs up, because it helps us in the rankings. It'll push the show out there so more people get to see it, and we would totally and completely appreciate that. Well, with that bit of whatever that was, news getting done, let's go ahead and get to the topic of the week.
Podcast Rock City Topic of the Week.
So when we talk about Dynasty, Unmasked, Elder, and Creatures of the Night, We're talking about a specific spot in history. Take out the solo albums because that it's kind of the same, but different, and I'll explain how. The solo albums, when you look at them, they're 4 different records. You have Peters, which is more of a I don't know, like a, would you say blues, Sonny? Blues, more of a R&B, pop. You think it's pop?
I think it's pop.
I didn't mean blues. I meant more of a R&B, maybe.
Still pop. Yeah.
Okay. You got Gene, which is rock and okay. And Lee is gonna come through that screen, and then and then Paul and Ace is rock, right?
Yeah, Paul's is just Kiss.
Paul's is Kiss. All right, rock. Okay, but when it comes to Dynasty, Unmasked, you're talking about that's when Kiss they took like they made a left and went down this road that they had never been down before, and by the end of it, they were like, maybe we need to make a U-turn. So we're going to talk about those today. First thing I want to point out is I have the Kiss Alive Forever book here, which shows us all the statistics, the Kiss statistics of their complete touring history up to the first farewell tour. They, of course, got back together. Anyway, so before we do that, I want to point out a couple things. Dynasty Tour started in June 15th, 1979, ended December 16th, 1979. Started in Lakeland, Florida, ended in Toledo, Ohio. Breathless, Cheap Trick, Eli, John Cougar and the Zone, John Butcher Axis, Judas Priest, Loverboy, Michael Stanley Band, Nantucket, New England, Rockets, Sweet and Whiteface open, average 10,500 per show. This record came out. I remember listening to it, and I didn't notice that it was anything different. I was 9. I think I was 9. I don't remember it being, I put the record on and I don't remember going, oh, wow, this is drastically different. It was I was excited that it was Kiss.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. And a lot of people do that, especially from when I've talked to people like under the age of 10 didn't really get it. Oh, teenagers got it, that obviously, but Joey, when this record came out, you saw this tour in Madison Square Garden. So you were 5. So when this record came out, you were 5. When you listened to it as either a young adult, teenager, when you listened to it, did you notice that it was different?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, not when I was 5, because I didn't even know Kiss yet. You know, I saw them live, and then I went backwards and really got into Double Platinum. That was my first real record that got me into Kiss. But, you know, as I became older and a teenager, I didn't really get Dynasty. I didn't like it. I liked I Was Made for Loving You. I liked 2000 Man. But a lot of it I didn't get. I was definitely, you know, Alive 2 was my go-to record. That was my favorite Kiss record growing up, and it still is today. I didn't get Dynasty. It definitely felt different, not only production-wise, but mostly songwriting. And I think, obviously, you know, you can see the biggest influence on Dynasty and Unmasked is Vinnie Poncia. That's what changes Kiss. It's not so much that Kiss changes. It's that Kiss now has this strong outside influence influencing them to go a certain way. Because even a song like I Was Made for Loving You, produced differently without the falsetto in the middle, that could be a rockin' song. We've all heard it live, like on the Revenge tour. It sounds rock killer. So the producer on those 2 records, and Anton kind of brought this up as well, how Vinnie was bringing Kiss more into that poppy world, which required different kinds of drumming and drum beats and feels. So I think Vinnie really took them in that direction. I don't think Kiss was opposed to it, because I think Kiss now were starting to become these chameleons that were going to change with the times.
Sonny, do you think that there was anything on this record that you listened to where you go, that's definitely not Peter Criss? Or I always thought of it as believable. You?
By the time I hear that, Eric Carr's in the band. So to me, I was like, oh, that's not Eric Carr. Right. So you got to remember, I'm in '84, my first record purchase ever. I went to go buy Animalize and Purple Rain. I left with Animalize, Purple Rain, Slide It In, and Dynasty. Because when I picked up the Animalize album, Dynasty was right after it. I'm like, this is the same band? Right? So I get home, I drop Animalize on the turntable. I had never heard I've Had Enough. All I've heard is Heaven's on Fire. Right? And I'm like, holy cow. Right? Finished listening to that album. And I'm like, all right, let me put this other one on. Drop it. I'm like, oh, the growly voice guy is first. That's interesting. Okay, that's not bad. I didn't realize I had put the charisma side of the record on.
Wow.
So I don't hear I Was Made for Loving You first.
That's funny.
Wow.
Right? So to me, it was just like, all right, it's 1984. This sounds almost disco, but so did everything else in 79, 80, right? So what's the difference? Hey, this guy can sing disco, so who cares?
That's interesting. Right? So, I wish I could have been with you when you were holding those two records going, what the hell is this? That's pretty interesting. Lee, you heard it. You didn't notice a difference.
Well, let's see. I was 15. I wouldn't have known drumming differences and things like that at that, you know what I mean? Like, to me, it was just a great Kiss record. I noticed there was a disco, you know, I Was Made for Loving You and everything, but I loved the record. I always have. So I loved it right off the bat.
Joey, do you have a favorite song on it?
On Dynasty?
Yeah.
Oof, that's tough.
Tough.
I mean, I Was Made for Loving You it's the best song on the record. It's a great song, but it's played out for me. I don't put it on anymore. So maybe, I mean, just because I had to learn charisma for this new, that Kiss Cancer Goodbye last year, that was fun, really digging into that song. I really like charisma a lot. I like Dirty Living. Now I like the whole record. I don't love X-Ray Eyes and I don't love Save Your Love, but everything else I think is killer.
Sonny, what about you?
I think it's about as close as a perfect record you can get. My least favorite's X-Ray Eyes. My favorite song on the record is Magic Touch, with Sure Know Something being a close second.
Right. Lee?
Of course, I loved Charisma. That was my favorite.
Yes.
I was singing that. It was just constant.
Yeah, I really have grown on Hard Times. I really seem to like that song a lot.
Great. Mm-hmm.
Hey, Joe,
it's one of the,
something we never checked on. I don't know if you ever checked on it. Maybe someone else here can check on it for us right now. Anton mentioned that he was credited on the remaster. Joe, is that what he said?
He said that they released some records that came out and more recent that had him on credited on it. This is not one of those that I have with me. So,
Sonny, you have anything like that? Does anyone have anything that's watching tonight?
Where they say Anton on the back.
Dynasty that possibly has Anton credited on it?
So what we asked him was, what was it like to go into a disco and hear I Was Made for Loving You and not be able to go, that's me, because he had to keep it quiet. And he said that he kept it quiet all the way up until just recently when, and when I say just recently, we're truthfully, as far as history goes, we're only recently finding out that Anton was the drummer on the record. So he said he kept it quiet all the way to then. And then he said that he saw that on a re-released version, he says he was on the cover of it, or not the cover, but the back cover.
I think he said the first time that it was officially outed that he was the drummer was Gene's book. I think he said
Gene's book, right? Which still was how many years ago now? 20 years ago?
1 probably, yeah. 20, almost 25 years ago, yeah.
Wow.
But still, when you think about it, it'd been a bunch of years. And just so you guys know, we asked him if he played on any other records that he wasn't allowed to tell us. And if you want to know the answer to that, go to our YouTube page and watch the video, because there was an answer. Right, Joey?
Oh, there was an answer.
There was an answer. Anyway, all right. So that being said, Dynasty, it was a big deal for them. They wound up getting like lots of kids. If you watch like the what was that? There was a little news thing. I can't think of the name of it. I'm sorry, but it was like a 60 minutes or 2020 thing, and they interview the band and they talk about money and rock and roll, and Kiss is interviewed, and all the little kids that are at the Dynasty merch booth, you know, their fathers are like, the dad was like, I needed to bring more money, remember? and one kid even says, I don't care about the music. I'm just here for the show.
Sure.
So this was the beginning of Kiss becoming the kid band. Sonny, yes or no?
100%. Yeah, this is, this is where the merchandising, it's already taken off, but now you can market it to the nth degree. And yeah, it's unfortunate it became the kiddie band, but that's kind of where they ended up.
Yeah.
Well, that was the beginning of Super Kiss, right? So Super Kiss is always where
Apes didn't help. Yeah.
And we know it started before that. We know the merchandising, the comic books, the dolls, all of that is already out. I think, everything is always usually one step backwards from where you normally place it. Like Dynasty, we think of Dynasty as the beginning of Super Kiss, but I think right before that causes Super Kiss, meaning the dolls, the movie, the comic book, the lunchbox, all of that stuff causes the success of that stuff causes the new costumes and the really the return of Kiss being Super Kiss. It wasn't Super Kiss that started that stuff. It was I think the merchandising created Super Kiss. And I still think, a lot of people don't like that era. I have obviously love it because it's where I was introduced to them. I love the Dynasty costumes. And if you really look at people today, most of the musicians, again, a lot of guys my age who were influenced by Kiss and play music today, it's the Dynasty tour that they saw them on, whether they were my age at 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10. You don't hear a lot of musicians right now, meaning superstar musicians in the world, that say, oh, I got introduced to Kiss during a live, or even Destroyer. You hear more people talk about the Dynasty tour than you hear Kiss. Guys like, Dave Grohl.
It's true. It's true what you're saying.
Jericho and Sebastian Bach and all these people who are all the Anthrax guys, they got into Kiss the Dynasty era.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It's true. I noticed that as well.
So check this out. So the Millennium Collection, the Best of Kiss, which came out in 2003. So remember the Millennium Collection came out part 1, 2, and 3. The last song on that 2003 collection was I Was Made for Loving You, and Anton is credited.
Wow.
So that's 2003.
Wow.
So that's 2003. It says Anton Fig drums on I Was Made for Loving You. Vinnie Poncia backing vocals on I Was Made for Loving You. So 2003, I think that's before Gene's book, right?
I think Gene's book is 2001.
I don't know. Yeah.
I can't remember.
I don't remember.
The Dynasty, before we move on to Unmasked, the Dynasty tour had 79 shows. Think about that. 79 shows compared to what Kiss did more recently. I mean, I don't even know how many shows were on this end of the road, but it was way more than that.
Yeah, but it was different back then. You know, you're right. When we think of the Dynasty tour or the Love Gun tour, we think of these massive tours. They weren't. They were 6 months long. But that's only because, and I don't know why they felt the need to rush stuff like this, but record companies back then wanted new product quicker. So a tour would only last that long. They would exhaust the markets and then they would get a new album out. You know, Kiss was releasing 2 albums a year. So they didn't have time to do a year or a year and a half tour, 2 year tour. You got to remember, even though I Was Made for Loving You was a hit, Kiss didn't have radio hits like, you know, Slippery When Wet. They toured for 2 years because every single the record company was like, oh, no, we're still good. We're still pressing 1 million albums a week. We're okay. Stay out there. Whereas Kiss really didn't have that radio and commercial support. Their touring was the support for the record. So they only did 6 months and then they were gone. Tours nowadays, like The End of the Road or Rock the Nation, which was actually not that long either, but some of them, there's no record to support those albums, those tours. So you could just tour as much as you want.
Right. Let's see. Unmasked. In case you guys have never seen the cover, okay. This is the cover. Okay. So Unmasked did 41 shows. Start date July 25th, 1980 in New York. Ended December 3rd in Auckland, New Zealand. Countries that they toured in: Australia, Belgium, Denmark, England, France, Italy, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Norway, Sweden, Switzerland, USA, and West Germany. USA, they count as one show.
Oh, yeah.
Opening acts were bands called Eyes, Girl. Now, Girl, that was
Phil Collins.
Phil Collins' band, yeah. And I say Phil Collins, I mean Phil Collins.
Collins.
Apostrophe S.
Yes, band. Iron Maiden, the Rockettes, and the Tectones. It says that the amount of people the average attendance was 16,442 based upon a very limited number of available attendance figures. Still respectable. And then
how many shows total?
41.
And I'm thinking they're counting the Mondo festivals.
They were all outdoor,
attendees.
I think.
Yeah.
I think all the shows were.
So,
I might be wrong, but
my
I
guess
thought
is they played Donington that year, and there's 70,000 people there, but they're not there for Kiss.
Well, let me ask you this: so that and I apologize because I honestly don't know, but that Donington Festival has been going on that long. I had no idea.
Well, I know it's at least mid '80s, so I don't know if it's 1980, but it's at least mid '80s.
Right.
But I'm just using that as an example, right? But the festivals in Europe have been going on forever. So if they're going to count that as attendees, I guess, I don't know.
It looks like it just says Stafford, England, Chester, England, London.
How big are those, though? What's it say as attendees? Because if it says anything over 25,000,
it doesn't say at all.
Be a festival, yeah.
It doesn't say at all. But, okay, so let's talk about Unmasked. I've told this story a bunch of times. I was sitting at my grandmother's house. She was watching General Hospital, and all of a sudden the commercial came on. And it said it was the commercial where it's like they're acting out all of the little squares. Joey, in comic books, what do they call that?
Say the squares, the panels?
The strip?
Panels. Thank you. The panels. They're acting each one out. And there's like a dialogue. And I remember being like amazed by this. Oh my God, I had to have this record. My parents, I ran into the kitchen. I told my mom, Kiss Unmasked is coming out. I need to go. My mom was like, you'll get it when you come back from camp, which was a summer camp. And I did not want to go, but I went just to get that record. And when I got back, I got the record. I opened it up. It had a big ass poster inside of it. That was awesome. It had something you could read like you were like the band was really talking. It was great. And I never understood that final thing. I still say they stink. People are upset about that.
I know what it means.
No, I understand that, but people get upset that they put that on there. It's like he should have won over the photographer, they think. But anyway, let's go ahead and go to you, Lee. You heard this record for the first time. What did you think?
Was never my favorite, but there was some good stuff on there. I loved Easy as It Seems and She's So European, of course. But it just, it was never my favorite album by any means. But I still say they still stink. I always felt that was because of us fans, because I heard that my whole fucking life. Kiss sucks, Kiss sucks. That's how I took it. That it was, I still say they stink, type thing.
Lee said the F word. She's taking that personally.
I still hear it. And I'm like, really? I said, like 50 years later, I got to hear this crap.
I'll tell you that when I listened to it, I once again didn't notice that it didn't sound like, Love Gun or anything. Right. I just listened to it and all I knew it was Kiss. And that's all that mattered to me. I loved and this is kind of strange. I love
the artwork.
I love the artwork.
Yeah.
I love Ace here with it looks like he's got wings, man. I really wish, and I know I've said that before, I really wish he would have had that instead of a cape. The angel wings or something like that would have been cool. But I really love that record. There's not a song on it that I think is bad. Sonny?
Well, there's some songs on it that are not good. But so I don't get that record until 87 when I start at Target. So I'm going, by the time I get Asylum and before, probably I got Crazy Nights maybe around the same time. It was around the Crazy Nights time where I'm like, I'm buying everything that has a Kiss label on it whenever I find it because I happen to love this band. But you got to remember, like, high school and then getting right out of high school, now we're talking mid to late 80s, and I hung out with people my age. Nobody was talking about Kiss and makeup. Nobody was talking about this isn't the originals. You never saw Kiss makeup. I don't remember Kiss makeup shirts out there, right? All I remember was it was the mecca of hair metal. So Kiss was just another hair metal band. When I first heard Unmasked, my favorite song off of it was Tomorrow. To this day, my favorite song off of it is Tomorrow. I love Easy as It Seems. The one song I'm not in love with is You're All That I Want. I just think it's stupid. And, She's So European is kind of stupid too.
Joey?
I absolutely love this record. I think it's perfect. I agree with Sonny that if there's one weak point, it's You're All I Want. But, Talk to Me is like, it's the perfect pop song. It's a perfect pop song. Ace is great on it. The solo section's great. It's just a perfect song. The whole record, I'm a pop music fan. So I get it. I love pop music, especially when probably I heard this record wasn't 80. It was probably a little later, but it was, I was a big Jackson 5 fan. Michael Jackson, when Off the Wall and Thriller came out, I was all over that stuff. And Sonny knows Prince too, big Prince fan, and, all that stuff. So Unmasked just fit right in with that stuff. And I liked it. I didn't care that it wasn't Judas Priest and AC/DC. I would rather listen to Michael Jackson than Iron Maiden. That's just who I was back then. I tell you the truth, I'd rather have listened to them now too. But I just prefer pop music over heavy music. And this was a great record for me. I got to tell you, this whole time period for me growing up, even like later in the 80s when the hair metal stuff was going on, Sonny, I'm not saying that it is now, but at the time, this was my favorite era of Kiss. These weird years, the Dynasty, this is exactly today's show. Dynasty, Unmasked, The Elder, Killers, and Creatures. That era, I absolutely adored because I loved Eric Carr, and the makeup Eric Carr era was this little tiny slice of history that you never saw. You never really saw pictures of it. You never saw articles. You never saw anything from that time period because it was so short-lived and they weren't popular. So it was almost like the rare era of Kiss.
Yeah. The one of the greatest things about the record was the poster on the inside. Obviously Dynasty came with a big poster, and that was a hit. So they did it again, and the wink. You guys remember the Peter Criss wink, right? And we interviewed Podcast Rock City has interviewed the artist, and I'm sorry, I can't think of his name right now. I got a lot going on running in my head, but we interviewed him, and he's basically said he put the wink in there as like a nod that Peter was leaving. He said that he was told. I'll tell you something interesting. He has an art, like a store of his own, like his own little place where you can see his art. And I believe it was Matt Porter that went in there, and he got a rolled up version of the poster, not folded, which is pretty cool if you ask me, because that means it was never folded, stuck in a record and sent out. It was like just rolled and sent to him. But, when that record came out, they stopped releasing stuff with records with extra stuff in it, didn't they, after that? Lee, do you remember anything? Do you remember? We're about to go into the next record. We'll bring that up in the next one. Okay? As far as the favorite song on it, for me, it's Naked City. Joey?
I'll go Talk to Me.
Sonny?
Tomorrow.
And Lee?
Easy as It Seems.
Easy as It Seems. Yeah, great record. When we get done today, I'm gonna force Karen to listen to it again.
Yeah.
Easy
Stop
as it
putting Karen through pain.
Easy as It Seems is more of a disco song than I Was Made for Loving You too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I never saw it that way.
Bass line.
I just thought it was I thought it was a cool bass line.
Yeah.
Great.
The Elder. There is information on the tour. However, it's one show.
Yeah.
That's all they did.
And it had 237,000 people. So their average attendance was 237,000.
Now, you guys sometimes send me letters and say, why is Sonny Pooney on this show? I think he hates Kiss. And I'm letting you know right now, that's why, because he's funny. Joey says, what?
He's an idiot. And I ask you that same question every week, too. Why the hell do we have him on the show?
Los Angeles, California, January 15th, 1982. The Oath, A World Without Heroes, and I remember where I was. I was sitting in my living room. I turned on Channel 69, saved the jokes. Yeah, Sonny's picture. He's giving the finger to the Elder. Channel 69 played Fridays. I had never even heard of Fridays. But I flipped it through, caught it at exactly the right time, and saw that Kiss was on there. And I got to see something I'd never seen. Now, this was probably 85 or 86, so it's years later. And this channel always ran reruns of TV shows. As a matter of fact, around Halloween, they also used to run Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, of edited version and the original version, which I always thought was amazing. I remember recording it on my Betamax because my mom got suckered into a Betamax. And I mean, the video quality was better, but you just couldn't get anything to rent on it. But I remember seeing them sing these three songs and just being blown away. Joey, the first time you heard Elder?
Again, anyone who's read my book, I have almost like a half a chapter on this, because this is the first record that I ever bought with my own money. I had my own money. I was going to buy. I knew I was going to the Sam Goody in the mall to buy a Kiss record. I didn't know which record because I didn't have a lot of them at that time. So I was just going, and this was the new one that was out. I said, oh, and I wasn't even sure that it was Kiss because I know it said Kiss in the corner, but my grandparents had lived in Manhattan in the Village, and I used to buy bootlegs from a lot of the record stores there, and I have some of them still, the old bootleg vinyls. And I was like, oh my God, is this a bootleg? And I remember every vinyl that I ever bought on bootleg always sounded like crap. So I was really nervous to buy the Elder because I thought maybe it was a bootleg, because how could this be a Kiss album? This doesn't look Kiss. It's a door handle. How could this be a real Kiss record? They would never do this, right? So I decided, my brother had his Walkman. I decided to buy the cassette. And that way I could plop it into my brother's Walkman quick. And if it sounded like a bootleg, I can immediately return it. And I still have that cassette. I popped it in, heard the first song, and I said, oh, this sounds amazing. And even at the mall, I was looking at the credits and it said Eric Carr drums. And I was like, what is that? And I lost my mind. So I love the Elder right away, just because now there's a new drummer, new excitement. And I love the songs. Do I wish there was a better concept for the cover? Yes. And I even just pulled this up. This is something, I don't know if I threw some of this together with someone else's kind of concept, but I was a big like Dungeons and Dragons fan and fantasy movies, Conan and, Krull and, Clash of the Titans. I love that type of stuff. And the Elder was perfect because it fit that genre for me. I just wish they did more of a cover, something like this, whether you think this is cheesy or not. If this is the cover, I think the Elder sells way better. I don't know if you guys can see it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
No, I remember you sent that to us a while ago. You did that. I agree. I agree. The fact that they did not introduce Eric Carr with a picture on the record was tragedy.
I mean, I hate to say it, I blame Ezrin, because I think Ezrin said, well, I just did Pink Floyd and I did a White Wall and it was the biggest album ever. I got it. We'll just put a door. And I really believe it. I don't think it's Gene and Paul at all. I think this is all Ezrin's doing, because Mr. Artwork himself, Paul, I don't think lets that go without Ezrin's influence. That's what the cover should have been. It should have been dragons and a castle and, fire breathing, showing what Eric Carr looked like, showing the new costumes in this crazy fantasy world. That if that thing is on the shelf, people lose their mind, because this stuff was big then.
Right.
Dragons
yes.
and all that fantasy was so popular. They missed the boat. I don't know. They did the album, I actually think, right. I just think they missed the concept with the marketing.
Lee, when you heard this record, what did you think?
Well, back then, when I first heard it, I didn't like it at all. I don't know. It didn't sound like Kiss to me, and I didn't play it much. I didn't like it. But then as I got older, I love it. Like, I started really listening to it. I'm like, well, what was I thinking back then? I like it a lot now.
Well, it might have been more what you were expecting.
Right. I wasn't expecting that exactly.
Right.
And I don't like change. Everybody knows that. So I couldn't,
Okay, so I'm going to bring up a subject after we talk to Sonny here. Sonny, you hate this record. Somewhere in L.A. and San Francisco and all the suburbs around there, if you're walking around, there's a chance you could find the seat. How many did you throw out the window? 6?
Never threw it out the window. The only Kiss album I've ever thrown out the window is Carnival of Souls.
That is so wrong.
I was 680 somewhere. I did not get the Elder, did not hear the Elder until probably 90, 91.
Wow.
Right? Because I'm trying to get everything Kiss, but the Elder you can't find anywhere because, well, they weren't selling any, right? Now, I could honestly tell you that if I go from Animalize to Dynasty to the Elder,
it's quite a difference.
It would have been the exact same as what happened to me with Scorpions, the exact same that happened to me with Priest. I came into Priest at Turbo, right? Went back to British Steel. I'm like, all right, good. Went to Sad Wings of Destiny. I'm an 80s Priest fan. Don't like Scorpion, same thing. Love It First Sting, perfect album. Go back to Blackout. This is awesome. Go get Lonesome Crow. That's it. I'm an 80s Scorpions fan, not a 70s. So I would have been an 80s Kiss fan, and that's it. And even though the Elders I would have been a non-makeup, basically, Kiss fan if I would have heard The Elder any earlier, it would have stopped me from every other Kiss album.
You can't even tell if it was makeup because of the album. You can't even see
that's
anything.
true. You mentioned the Scorpions. I was listening to their live album today. What's it?
Worldwide Live?
Worldwide Live. Man, that is
awesome.
That is a awesome album.
Come on.
Yeah, that's a nice album. Yeah. All right, so there's a whole bunch of you guys here watching. And this is what I want you guys to do. We do this show, in case this is your first time here, we do this show live every Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe. If you're watching on Facebook, we can no longer see your comments because Facebook basically has blocked us from really including you. Your comments are on Facebook, and we're not there, unfortunately, right now. So when you get a chance, go over to YouTube and subscribe to the YouTube page, because then you could be part of the show. That's one of the coolest things. The comments are being put up here by Freddie Manfredo. He is putting the comments up as they go. And if you put up a comment, that's a good one. And it's up. It's up. He puts them up there and they get done. Here's the other question that I'm going to go with you guys. Oh, wait, one more thing. If you want to suggest a topic for us, podcast Rock City 1.
That's the number one.
At gmail.com. Podcast Rock City 1. That's the number 1 at gmail.com. All right, here we go. Sonny, I'm about to ask you a question that is really, it's a serious question, and I'm hoping not to get a sarcastic answer. If there was any hope for Kiss with The Elder, the record company insisting on putting the oath first was the smartest thing they did.
Who cares?
You don't think so?
No,
I
don't think it matters.
But if they would have started with Just a Boy,
it doesn't matter.
You don't think so, Joey?
There's one good song on that album, basically.
And what is that?
Escape from the Island.
Escape from the. Oh, wow, you don't like the oath? All right, Joey.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the concept is cool. I like to listen to it in order, but nobody cared at that time. The oath is the move to put first, of course.
Okay, Lee, you agree?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, now let's talk about the question that I had earlier. There's nothing extra in this record. Nothing extra. Joey, answer this question. I know the answer. What should have been in there?
Ooh, I don't know what should have been, but I think nothing was in there because the record company knew that it was going to flop, and they were like, "Nope, we're not putting any more money into this. We're not doing it." I even read, I read that Elder book that the record company was thinking of shelving it, and they have the right to do that and force Kiss. Basically, all that means is when Kiss turns that product in, the record company can refuse to take it. They can actually say, "No, this product is not what we want. You have to record another record." And I heard rumblings that was a possibility. What should have been as a giveaway? Whew, I don't know. I mean, obviously a poster with Eric Carr with makeup.
Right. There you go.
That's what has to be in there. You have to show Eric. I mean, that's what tortured me as a kid. It really wasn't until Creatures came out that I even saw a picture of Eric with makeup. What do you think should have been in it, Joe?
Oh, I'll tell you.
I just thought it was Peter Criss. I didn't even know at the time.
Look at that. You didn't even know.
No.
But it says on the liner notes, Lee, it says, it never said like instruments. It always said Kiss, Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley, Ace Frehley, and it says Eric Carr on that, and which literally blew my mind.
I didn't even notice.
Yeah, that's interesting. Sonny, do you think there should have been anything in there?
100%. 100%.
What?
An apology letter.
Oh, shit.
We're sorry we're putting this out, but we spent the money recording it, so here you go. Signed, Ace, Paul, Gene, and Eric.
Okay. I kind of as I started saying that question, I should have pulled back. Anyway, all right, let me tell you guys what should have been in there. You open this record, And the first thing you see on the inside is a comic book that tells the story that they're singing about, because you can't follow along with it if you don't know the frickin' story.
Love it.
I think a comic book would have been no. Okay, once again, it doesn't make it a better record, but it makes it a soundtrack to the comic book. Sonny raised his hand. Go ahead. You're called on.
I got another idea. A hand on the inside that closed the album. As you opened it, there's a hand on the inside that closes it.
Come on.
That would have been awesome.
Sonny's so brutal. I'm going to get hate mail. It's the funniest thing. Okay, I don't want to. Anyway, Sonny is, look, don't breathe, Sonny. Breathe. Deep breath. He's laughing so hard, y'all. If you guys are listening to this show on iTunes or Google or wherever you're listening to it, try to come by and hang out with us on a Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern time on YouTube. It's a lot of fun, and you can make fun of Sonny. Okay,
what Chuck just said, Priest did it on one of their newer releases. I don't know if it was Nostradamus or the other one, but every time somebody bought an album, you got a free ticket for a show. Redeemer of Souls, I think, maybe.
That's cool.
It was on one of the newer releases in the 2000s that if you bought the CD, you got a free ticket to a show.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. So Sonny has there's one song on it that's good, and it's what?
Escape from the Island.
Escape from the Island. Lee, your favorite song on it is?
Mr. Blackwell.
Oh.
Joey?
I love all the songs with the exception of probably Odyssey, but I'll probably go with I really think I should have been a Kiss anthem for years live. I don't know why that song wasn't played.
Definitely.
Really
Yep.
And I go with Dark Light. I love that song.
Amazing.
Okay.
Honestly, so many good songs. Under the Rose is incredible.
Under the Rose is incredible. Yes. Okay. So now we're going to get to Scott Hawk. You just cracked me up. He said should have come with a sucker in it. Okay. Final record that we're talking about today. Creatures of the Night. Okay, Creatures of the Night tour started December 29th, 1982 in Bismarck, North Dakota, ended June 25th, 1983 in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Countries it went to: Brazil, Canada, USA. Bands that opened: Dare Force, Defectors, Headpins, I can't read that. Hervados, sorry. Hots, and it's got to be some kind of a Molly Hatchet, Motley Crue, Night Ranger, Plasmatics, The Shoes, Why on Earth, and Zebra. Average amount of people going to the show. Sonny, take a guess.
7,200.
Joey.
9,400.
Lee.
10,000.
5,000.
What?
350.
Whoa.
Does not include the Brazilian shows.
Oh, that's
which is the festivals.
Yeah, of course.
Which was the big ones. So when you go to the festival show, for that show, it says the Sao Paulo show was 65,000, capacity 100,000. Rio de Janeiro was 137,000 with a capacity of 200,000. Still, I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, there was no way I'm standing in a crowd of 137,000 people. Not in your life. No way. And I get out. You can call me all kinds of names, but I just based on the fact that I'd be, well, maybe as a kid I wouldn't have cared so much, but definitely with the brain I have right now, and the fact that I'm old and I got to pee a lot. I'm just saying. Okay, Joey, I know you had a story about this. Doesn't the story from your book involve your mom with this record?
Yeah, I mean, again, it goes back to the Elder. When I got the Elder and I saw Eric Carr's name on it, I was on a mission for the next year to figure out what he looked like.
Right.
You know, I didn't know, and it crossed my mind. Did he have Peter's makeup? Did he have new makeup? the Kiss wasn't in magazines at this time. They were dead. So I never got to see this. There's no internet. I don't have cable. I have basic TV. I can't find a picture of Eric
No one
Carr
knew
anywhere. And I walked in, my same Sam Goody, just on another day, looking to buy another Kiss record, or just probably browse because I had no money. And I saw the Kiss Creatures of the Night record in the new release section, and it's still to this day that cover is magical. That's a very captivating cover that will draw you in, not only with the makeup and Eric's face on it, but that blue hum. It was just, oh my God, what a cover. So I sprinted out of there and begged my mother for money to buy me that record because I had no money. And she probably had no money either on her, but she gave me her last $10 or whatever it cost. And I literally was on my hands and knees. I cannot leave without this record. You didn't have a phone to take a quick snapshot of the cover, which I would do today, right? It was just in my brain. I had to go home with that album. And it was, when I put that first track on, it was like, holy cow, this is incredible. Yeah. And I just stared at that cover for, I don't even want to say hours. I'm going to say years.
Lee, first time you heard it.
I was like, whoa, they're back. Right. Just compared to the Elder, which I didn't like back then. Creatures was killing it. I mean, what a rocking album.
It is. It is a complete U-turn, right?
And
Sonny?
I could tell the difference in the drumming. It was just, I'm not a big drummer, I listen to the bass obviously, but I could feel a difference. Like this is somebody else. It was back to why we like.
I
love Peter's drumming. It's just two different styles, and it was hard rock style for sure.
Absolutely. Sonny, first time you heard this record?
First time I heard it, I was amazed. But I'll tell you that I'm at Tower, and at this point, it's 85, 86, because Creatures was one of the next albums that I got after that first purchase. And I was buying a lot of cassettes. So I go to check the cassettes first, and I see this Creatures album that I had not seen before, and it's got the non-makeup guys on it. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Then I happened to run by the albums, saw Creatures of the Night, and I'm like, that's a different cover. Does it have different songs? So I flip it over. It's like, how can it be all the same songs? So I'm like reading the fine print. I'm like, one says 1982 and one says 1985. Who re-releases an album in like 3 years? Yeah. So I thought maybe there were different versions of the song. So I bought both because there was no way I was dropping that 82 cover. Dude, they were like looking through me, right? I'm like, oh my God, I want posters of this. I want a shirt of this. Yeah. It was one of the first frame things that I got. Huh. I thought there was one dud on it. Loved all the other songs.
What's the dud?
I Love It Loud. Cannot stand it to this day.
Come on.
And not so stupid.
Say that's
there is not an other band we listen to that we would allow that song to be okay. There's not one other band you would allow. If Motley Crue came out with that song, you'd say it was shit. There's not another band you would allow that with. No way.
Lee is hot today. What is going on? She is ready to come through. Sonny, you're not safe where you are. I'm letting you know that right now. All of a sudden,
how can you say I Love It Loud as a dud? That's insanity.
All of a sudden, Sonny, you and I'm Peter and you're Ace, and down there, Gene and Paul. And what is happening? Don't alienate me to be a Vinny. Okay, so here's a question for you guys. So let's say they skip the Elder and put this out. Does it give them a chance? Sonny, what do you think?
Maybe. I mean, if it comes out the same time like British Steel is coming out and Maiden's putting out those first two albums, I guess they are part of this rock invasion that's happening. I don't know if they drop the Kitty thing, though, that fast. That's the problem. Is that, Priest and Scorpions and all those Def Leppard and all these guys that are coming on, this is for the next teenage generation where this Kitty band's going to get involved now. So I think they would have had to probably also drop the makeup.
Yeah.
I think Joey, what do you think? I think if it comes out not after Unmasked, after Dynasty, that's when it would save Kiss. I think it changes their course if that happens, because yeah, they made a little left turn with Dynasty, tiny bit only, because it's the production and I Was Made for Loving You, and maybe Sure Know Something, more poppy sound. Everything else on Dynasties is pretty rocking, even though the production is poppy. Creatures comes out after that with that cover. I think it's a different game. And listen, hindsight is 2020, because it might have saved them for a couple of years, but maybe it would have destroyed all of the 80s Kiss, because again, things happen for a reason, right? All of this downfall of Kiss, to me, happens. I love it because I love The Elder. I love Unmasked. I love these records. But if you don't have the failure of those records, you don't have Gene and Paul, or Paul especially, really striving to say, we got to change things. And they come out with Lick It Up, and then, obviously Animalize and Asylum and Crazy Nights. Those albums are amazing to me. So I think if Kiss is still strong during those early 80s years, maybe we don't get hair metal Kiss. Maybe we don't get them.
Interesting. Sonny, what do you think about that? True?
I think a lot of that's true. I was also thinking about, and I'll get you guys' take on this. Let's say they don't do Lick It Up, and the first Unmasked, the first non-makeup Kiss album comes out after Rats Out of the Cellar. By this time, now you've got all these bands that got a dual guitar attack. Do they bring in a fourth and fifth member to have that same thing? Like, they were lucky they had success with Lick It Up, so they just kept on with the formula. But if they skip 2 years and every band that's getting on MTV is a dual guitar attack, and that's not going to be Paul, because he doesn't want to do leads, let's say, do they add two guitars?
Oh, that's interesting.
That's a great question, because, listen, I don't, obviously we'll never know if they would have done that, but I don't think Paul would be opposed to that. They give Paul the option, you're going to be the front man. We're going to bring in another lead type guitar player, like you said, that dual attack. I think Paul would be all about that. I think he would have loved that in the 80s. Interesting.
I think Paul likes to hold his guitar, though. I don't know. I don't think it would have happened.
I think live, Paul uses the guitar as like that, part of extension of him.
Part of you. Uh-huh.
But, he also mentioned that on in the video, Let's Put the X in Sex, I don't think he holds one at all for the whole video. Man. He just purpose. Was the front
and then
man.
You get a lot of this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he could do it of course.
Sonny,
Paul. He could be.
If you guys aren't watching, you just missed Sonny Pooney doing the Paul Stanley Let's Put the X in Sex dance.
Sonny, for the next Kiss event, whatever it's going to be that we're all at, I'm going to make you one of those mesh metal shirts that Paul wears in the video. Can you
boy,
reenact that dance for us?
No problem. Make sure it's 6X though.
6X. I'll have to get a car scrap metal to make it.
Oh my God! All right, listen. We have one more segment to talk about. This has been. Oh wait, Joey, you got a favorite song?
Off Creatures?
Yeah.
Oh my God, there's so many, but I'll go Saint and Sinner.
Sonny.
I still got to go with I Still Love You. War Machine and Creatures are a close second, but I got to go with I Still Love You.
Lee?
That's tough. I got a few in mind, but I guess War Machine would be the number one.
Creatures of the Night is my favorite song on that album. If you guys go on YouTube after the show, go to Google or YouTube if you're already there, and type in Bryan Adams Plays War Machine. You can actually, because he, for you guys that don't know, helped write it. And if you go on and you watch, he plays it on acoustic guitar, and somebody they're like backstage, and somebody in his band is like singing lyrics, which is pretty interesting. All right. First of all, before we're not going anywhere, hang in there. We've got a few more minutes, but I want to thank you guys all for the comments. You guys have been on fire today. The comments have been great. We really do appreciate it. You are the 5th member of this show. You're always welcome to be here, and you're always welcome to hang out with us. It is a true delight that you guys are here and being part of the show. Your comments really do help the show move along. We appreciate that. That being said, I really wanted to do this today, and so we've got to do
stuff we grew up with.
And that's what we grew up with right there.
Oh yeah, baby.
Arcades. Now, so if you guys are listening, what we're showing right now is a picture of a bunch of arcade machines. It says 1980, the greatest arcade games of 1980. So this is what I wanted to ask you guys. I don't really need that. I can take that away. Here we go. So in 1980, I remember getting off the bus. I did not eat lunch. I had $1, and I would go across the street. We had a place we called the Cuban store because they had Cuban bread that you could get there fresh, like out of the oven, like the best Cuban bread. You could get Cuban coffee. I never had it at that place. I tried Cuban coffee one time when I was about 12. It was like liquid cocaine. And then because you're like Beavis after he has whatever chocolate or sugar or whatever, and then but we would I had a friend and we would go in and we would play 2 games that were in there. One was Donkey Kong, and I'm still killer at it, I'll tell you that. And the other game it came a couple years later, was Track and Field. Those were 2 of my favorite games of all time. I have an arcade here, and I still play pretty much those 2 games. People are already posting their things. Space
Invaders.
The memories are amazing. Lee, did you have a favorite arcade game?
Oh yeah, I killed it. Miss Pac-Man.
Miss Pac-Man? Sonny?
Yep.
There was a pizza place on the way to high school and back on my walk. And that pizza place had 4 games. And I love these 4 games. Tempest, Pole Position, Moon Patrol, and 1942.
I played Moon Patrol just recently because I have it. But those are great games. 1942 is awesome. Where you're flying in the plane and you do the spinaroonies and you shooties, and it's a lot of fun. Joey, can I guess your favorite game?
Yes.
Berserk.
Nope.
I'm just kidding. I don't
Kubert.
know.
I had something very similar, Sonny. On my way to grammar school every day, I had a little candy store. I didn't have really arcades that we went to. That was not really part of my everyday, but I had stores that had certain, 2 games usually. And my candy store where we always used to hang out and they became my favorite games probably because they were in that store and I got to play them every day. Defender and Centipede. Those were the 2 that I played.
Centipede was awesome.
Every day for hours and hours and hours. It was insane. You'd have kids just hovered around the machines.
Totally amazing. I'm going to point this one out. Steve Gill wrote Gorf was great. Do you guys remember Gorf?
No.
It was like 4 different games in one, and you could beat each one. One was kind of like a Galaga Galaxian. Lots of Galaga fans on the show today. Lots of Galaga fans. And Jared wanted to know, did I use a pencil or a comb in Track and Field? And the answer is yes. You put it between your fingers like this, so you didn't have to go like this. You just hit one, and the pencil would hit the other side. And we were good at it. We're good at it. But I have found that on my arcade machine here, all you have to do is hit one button and it runs. So I just do like a, I don't know, whatever I'm doing. It's a triplet. Defender G. John Clark. You guys, look, it's so amazing. But let's talk about a few other games before we go. What about Space Invaders? Everybody played Space Invaders. There was a black and white version. Remember, then it was like a green color version. But I'm going to throw a few games out there. I also liked Burger Time. Did you guys ever play Burger Time?
I remember that.
Where you rock across the bun and it falls and makes the burgers, and you're chased by like a pickle and like onions or something like that, and you could throw salt on them and it slowed them down. What about Dig Dug?
Oh
Dig
yeah,
Dug was fun. Yeah.
Dig Dug. Yeah.
Okay, and I played a game called Gyrus where the music is like, I don't like classical almost, but with like a techno feel, and you go around in circles and shoot shit that comes out. What about I mean, like we could go on forever. We could do our own
Frogger. Remember Frogger?
Frogger, yeah.
That was one of my other good
really
ones that I played. I
Mark.
was always at the Frogger.
Yeah, I mean, like right now, I know there's a bunch of you guys here, and I know right now you guys are like James Earl Jones in the Field of Dreams. The memories you'll have to wipe them away because being a kid, Asteroids, G. John Clark, that's a good one too. It's the Battle Zone, stick in the middle with anyway. If you guys have not seen Pixels, I recommend the movie Pixels with Adam Sandler. It's a lot of fun to watch because it's all video games. That's all it is. It's just video games. The music soundtrack is great.
I'm
funny.
old, James. Sorry.
Huh?
James said Frogger is too old a game. I was like, I'm old.
No way. I played that all the time. Anyway, okay, so we're getting ready to go over to Patreon and do our show for them. And Sonny, do you have anything to add? Dragon's Lair.
Yeah, thanks for listening. And I'll tell you one other one I used to play when I was a kid, Afterburner. If you remember.
Oh, yeah, with the plane, yeah.
And then later on, when I started making a little money, I would still go to the arcades, just to live my youth or whatever. To this day, if there's an NFL Blitz or a Golden Tee golf game, dude, I am all over that thing. I pump dollars into Golden Tee and play 36, 54 holes. I don't care.
That's awesome. Wow. Joe, you have anything to add?
No, just go check out our Anton interview. It was a lot of fun if you haven't seen it yet. It was a great time. Lots of little tidbits that Anton gave us. It was very, very fun.
Lee.
No, this was a fun show. I always love stuff you grew up with, Joe. It was a good segment.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. I'm glad you like it. I will tell you guys that I'm now, once we're done taping today, I'm gonna go and play some arcade games because now I'm sitting there going, it's so much fun. I wish we all lived around each other. So Lee doesn't live too far. I'll get Lee to come over, and she loves Karen anyway.
We were the first people to get Pong at the house. I was kind of a big deal back then.
I was kind of a big deal.
Because everyone wanted to come over and see it and play Pong. It was a big deal back then.
Chuck asked what guitar this is. It is a blood splatter Joey Jordanson Murder Dolls version. BC Rich. Warlock.
That is, and it's beautiful. All right. So all right. Thanks again for being here, guys. Once again, hit the like button, hit the love, heart, whatever, thumbs up, whatever they have, hit that for us. It's really gonna help it. I'll give you guys 10 seconds. 9.
Just don't hit the thumbs down.
7, 6. I don't even care about that. It doesn't bother us. 5. If you didn't like the show, I don't know how to make you happy. 3, 2, 1. All right, I'm going to say that again. You know what I'm going to say. We love Kiss, and we love Kiss podcasts, most of them. And you're going to hear the commercials for all the ones that we love right after this in 3, 2, 1. Peace.